Hello and welcome to Maiden, Mother, Matriarch with me, Louise Perry. We're still audio only for the time being. I just got back from holiday, and some of you know that I will be in LA this coming week for the Free Presses event, the Clash of the Female Titans. Was the sexual revolution a good thing? Hopefully see some of you there. So we're just sticking to audio only so that we can continue to release episodes over the next week or two. I spoke today to Holly Lawford-Smith, who is a political philosopher, professor at the University of Melbourne, and her book for Oxford University Press, you probably would have heard about it because it caused quite a furore at the time, was called Gender-Critical Feminism, published last year. And she's also got a new book out, Sex Matters, Essays in Gender-Critical Philosophy. We discussed the difference between gender-critical feminism and other kinds of feminism, whether or not TERF is a slur, and we had a very involved debate into the extended section as well on social constructivism and whether or not differences between men and women are innate or socialized, and whether it would matter either way. You can find that extended version of the episode at louiseperry.substack.com, where you can also find bonus episodes and the MM chat community. Enjoy. So, Holly, I wanted to start by asking you whether TERF is a slur, because you have a chapter in your upcoming book asking precisely that question. And I personally don't treat it like a slur.
Yeah.
I actually describe myself as a TERF because I find it funny. But I think there is an argument. It clearly is used as a slur by some people. So it's actually quite a complicated question to answer.
Yeah, it's tricky because I sort of agree with you that things have changed a lot over the last few years. And so my position now on whether it's a slur and the way in which I use it maybe doesn't match what I argued in my book that has just come out. And I was writing that. I mean, I should have checked when, because I wrote that initially as a draft paper with a bunch of the British TERFs. Let's just lean into that. Maybe that was already 2018 or something. So this paper came out, I think it was 2018 or 2019, in a really well-regarded philosophy journal, using the word TERF. It was a trans activist, very vitriolic, misogynist trans woman who was quite prominent in the profession. And he was using that term in a sort of pejorative way and making this mocking case about like it being TERF propaganda to say that trans women are men, something like that. And so we wrote this response paper because him and a number of other people were kind of, maybe just kind of claiming that it was absolutely ridiculous to call this term a slur and it's just descriptive. Meanwhile, all these activists, of course, are using it in conjunction with like rape threats and death threats and this really graphic imagery of violence against women. So I think we were all highly motivated to sort of make the case that the journal shouldn't be using that language, like an academic journal trying to be hospitable to women in a profession where women are underrepresented. So I think we wrote a complaint letter to a main philosophy blog, and then we wrote this draft paper. And then I think we tried to get that published and couldn't get it published anywhere. And you know how it goes with co-authored stuff, like eventually everyone else dropped off and then it was just me. And and then I was
just the flag. Yeah.
And then I was having that problem with a lot of my work, actually, just like journals were just sort of disrespecting it. Of course, my opponents will say that the work was bad, but anyway, it's been a really long road with that paper. So it became part of the book. So now I have this paper in 2023 arguing that TERF, in fact, is a slur on 9 major accounts of slurs in the slurs literature and trying to pick like representative theories from all the different types of accounts that there are. But yeah, it is in some sense a project that made more sense in 2018 than it really makes now, because I, like many of the other gender critical women, kind of use it in a fun way and I think we have partly reclaimed it and taken some of the sting out of it. And there's certainly still controversial uses of it, right? Like, didn't Sarah Jane Barker recently do the sort of his incitement to violence against women using that word?
The punch TERFs. Yeah, exactly. So this was a trans activist who gave a speech in London, I think, at some kind of rally. And really went for it with the violent rhetoric in association with the word TERF.
Right.
And this is also someone who has a history of violence and has been in prison for, so, it's not a trivial
violence.
claim.
I'm actually writing a paper at the moment on how to tell the difference between when words are incitement in that kind of way that Sarah Jane Barker was accused of using, and when they're just like the desperate rhetoric of a minority group, right? Because you can imagine like a really oppressed people's saying quite violent things, but as a last resort. So I got really interested in that question, and one of the cases that I'm using in the paper is violent trans activist language. And so I was finding all these examples of like kill the TERFs t-shirts and things like this sort of around pride marches around the world. And yeah, there's this interesting question about how seriously it is meant. And the fact that it is like male people saying it or wearing that stuff, they are really entitled. And so the question is that misogyny of the usual kind, and should we take it seriously as a threat given the history of male violence against women? And maybe they would say, no, like trans people are just such an oppressed group, and this is one of our few ways of expressing our rage and frustration with this. So it's like I can always have this fight with the trans activist in my head, and I kind of know their moves by now. So
yeah, me too. I think they're quite their playbook is quite sort of has been well rehearsed, so I think we all kind of know where the arguments lead.
Yes.
I think that TERFisaslur.com was, or something like that, was a domain bought by some gender-critical feminists where they, do you remember this? They put together sort of all the copious examples of specifically TERF being used against J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I didn't know that they had it targeting her in particular, but I know that there was. Actually, I interviewed Corinna Cohn. Why do I always say her surname wrong? Cohn or Con, the gender critical transsexual person. And she was saying that she had actually started a version of TERF as a slur on some obsolete platform, like Tumblr or something. And then I think, Rebecca Riley Cooper's version came along after that. And then I think there's even a Google Drive version now that is like got the most up-to-date ones. But again, if anyone looks at any of those repositories, it's very hard to deny the way that term is used violently and explicitly to shut women up or shut women down.
Thank you so much for watching that episode of Maiden, Mother, Matriarch, and for all of your support. It means an enormous amount for the growth of the show. If you want to hear bonus content, an extra 20, 30 minutes of conversation with the guest, maybe a little bit more personal, a little bit less filtered, then you can go to my Substack at louiseperry.substack.com, where you can sign up for extended episodes and also bonus episodes, and you can also access our chat community. You can also support the show by subscribing on YouTube or subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, and rating and reviewing on Apple Podcasts is also really great for encouraging other people to give the show a try. Please also spread the word, tell people that you know who you think might like it to give it a shot. The word of mouth effect is really valuable, so we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, watching, and supporting what we're doing.